Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Or I'm not gonna sing this intro. Welcome to your magical moon message. This is the peace dealer. Shout out to Blue Flame Integration. May the truth be with you. She gifted me this InfoWars shirt. And first and foremost, moment of silence. Actually, that sounds like someone died. I just want to give mad props to Alex Jones. We all owe you an apology. We were all at some point calling you crazy. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, you got kicked out of YouTube before being kicked out of YouTube was in style. Like we all, just in case no one wants to acknowledge, like we all owe you an apology. Like this is be completely real. Like about more than half of the stuff that you are saying, the motherfuckers is trying to play you out to being crazy. It's not only come true, but it's like you were right the whole time. So I'm just gonna put that out there. Alex Jones, thank you for your service. I know you had your run-in with William Cooper. Rest in peace. But I just want to acknowledge you've been the truth for a minute. But other than that, welcome to your magical moon message. Moon in Virgo, Sun in Scorpio. The apocalypse has never felt more peaceful. This is like the calm before the storm. Please understand, Jupiter will go in Pisces, and all these warnings about floodings and tsunamis. I hope you know, like, after Jupiter finishes out of Pisces, it's going to go into Aries, and then Saturn's going to go into Pisces, and then Pluto is going to go into Aquarius. It's the end of the world, the beginning of the end of the world, 2023. And we're going to literally have our first brush with mass extinction events. Okay, and a sneak peek of that is literally Jupiter and Pisces ending off the Jupiter cycle. If you think Pisces, water, cataclysmic, collective, happening. My bad. It's hard for me to. Oh, my bad. What's good? It's hard for me to say what I'm saying without how do I say it? Sounding just so negative and grim and gloom. But as they say, apocalypses are unveilings. So just keep that in mind. Be very mindful of what you hear may be happening. Remember, everything that kicked off in this cycle kicked off 2020 with the Jupiter and Cap. Now we have Jupiter and Aqua 2021, and we're closing the cycle 2022, Jupiter and Pisces. That's the happening. Okay, considering March 21st, 2020 was the beginning of this apocalypse cycle with Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn, and Mars. You could look it up in the stars. Quadruple conjunct, cyclically, we're getting ready to push things. And it's easier if you understand the science between mutability, cardinality, and fixedness and energy. The actions we took Capricorn to kick everything off, where decisions were made, right, have now been sustaining, and the effects of everything that's been happening for the past 2 years we're going to see happen next year. So please understand, things are going to progressively get crazier, but let me just bring you back into history. Let's go back in time in history. The last time Pluto was in Capricorn, where it is right now, was 1776, where we had the foundation and ratification of a constitution that granted you freedoms that you're experiencing right now. This is a fact. Pluto's back around here, and it's kind of interesting. If you think around that time, millions of people succumbed to a disease because of blankets that were given to indigenous peoples, it's not that far off from pestilence coming back around and killing millions of people. If you think back then, there were wars by the Spanish, by the English, by indigenous tribesmen, everybody. It wasn't as simple as just this person versus that person. The world was plunged in a state of war. The world was plunged in a state of famine after that war. Think about the 1700s. Think about the 1800s before Manifest Destiny. You even have the first Civil War of America. The last time Pluto was in Aries, Neptune was in Aries and Uranus was in Gemini, where it's coming back around right now. In fact, the last time Uranus was in Taurus, we had the Great Depression, and we had a financial collapse as soon as Uranus went into Taurus. So those who don't study history are doomed to repeat it. These cycles do not lie. So this is why when I'm telling you mass extinction events is a thing, like it's coming, it's not just me making it up. We see this in history. I'm gonna say this again. Pestilence, disease. We saw this in the late 1700s and the 1800s in droves. Okay, war, the Revolutionary War. We had the War of Independence in France. Like, these are talking about during these periods massive shifts in government structure. And we're seeing this happen again in a climate where cryptocurrency is getting ready to change the facet of economy itself. And so none of this is a bad thing. I'm not saying any of this as if this is bad or good. It's just important to be on top of these cycles so you know where you fit in it. And now, where the moon is about to kick off this new moon in Scorpio of transformation relative to this mastery of personification and individualization of your own awakening since the past 2 years, you're going to come into a deeper understanding of how to integrate this transformation in your social environment and interactions more purely and intimately with other people, because we finished Libra season, which activated this new cycle of partnerships. This is where things get deeper, more intense, coming into Thursday with the new moon, and you have to owe it to yourself with this moon in Virgo. I apologize for missing moon in Leo. For those of you who've been contacting me on my iPhone, I lost it, so I don't have that anymore. I used to have 2 phones, one for the and one for the. All right, it is. Shout out to Kevin Gates. But other than that, I just love going down this history. We are in very exciting times. Don't get so divided in liberal versus conservative, white versus black. None of that bullshit matters. This is a collective test. And if we fail this collective test, we are going to fail collectively. It's not, oh, this side was right. We're all going to be freaking screwed. So this is the time to come together, squash differences, the one thing we're not going to do. And, it's going to be interesting to see the consequences of that. So other than that, Moon in Virgo is at the 11th house of this cycle, completing the new moon cycle we had in Libra and the full moon we had in Aries before we step into a new moon in Scorpio through the balsamic phase next tomorrow in Libra, which is going to release an old personification you extended in relationships now that you're so much more clear on how much you've evolved and transformed. And I'm saying everything which unfortunately is pushed under the lens of spiritual. I don't consider myself a spiritual person. Everything that I say applies to anybody in any walk of life. But regardless, this could apply to you running a faster 7-meter or 100-meter dash. It really doesn't matter. But you're definitely going to be looking around at the environment around you and take stock at how, relative to these collective tests and events, you've grown so exponentially in a short amount of time. And the 11th house gains a career is going to have you come into more understanding of how your changed behavior leads into noticeable transformation. This is also going to give you and hook you up with physical, tangible, practical rewards, real friends, and where this real perspective belongs in your life to facilitate even pure transformation. Everything that I'm saying is really just a precursor to Thursday, where once we hit that new moon, nothing will be the same at all. The moon itself right now is king kunxing all this collective narrative in Aquarius. So your understanding of, what we've all collectively been told up to this point will subtly transform relative to how well you can, once again, personally, in the midst of others, transform your understanding relative to other people who you're with. It's a fancy way of saying that relative to these mini awakenings we've had in these 2-week cycles, you're going to be more practically aware and experience the tangible results of how these changes in your behavior, reflective to how you apply them to other people you're with, show how much you've grown or how much you need to grow. But thankfully, with the grand earth trine that's forming, it's also tangibly, practically, and realistically breaking you through into more practical ways to measure physically the expression of literal superpowers, like literal supernatural abilities that are causally induced. Like, you thought this and this happened predictably. Like, we're entering that realm to where your context of relationships with other people help facilitate more of this. So it's not just in your head. All right. No, this is lit because, once again, all of this is preparing us for legitimate mass extinction events. Like, I don't know how to say that without sounding scary, but this is a good thing. This is the mark of a brand new era that's being born. And I once again want to let you know that the whole notion of mass extinction events occurring is not even the first time it's happened. There's nothing new about this. Just go back in history. Oh my God, are you ready? Pluto, we have less than a year. Oh my God. All right. And it is what it is. It is what it is. For those of you doing the spiritual work, you don't have to worry because that's what this is for. So that when you break through, whereas other people didn't really believe in their innate potential, you did and you do. And it's going to see you through. And like Steve Harvey said, don't stop in hell. Keep going. Okay. Despite how intense things are going to be, many more of you might feel liberated, even though, deconstruction is occurring before we construct a whole new reality. If you're born after 95, you're the hope of the new future, especially those of you born in the 2000s. It's you. It's y'all. I hope you know it's y'all. It's y'all. Like, we all depend on y'all. Like, I know the older gen is kind of calling y'all millennials, or well, they call us millennials, but they're kind of like, acting like y'all don't know shit. You don't have to know shit because you're creating the new. We have to know what you know. But it is. Forget it. This is gonna make a lot more sense once Pluto goes into Aquarius, and once Jupiter goes into Pisces next year. Pluto's gonna go into Aquarius 2023, but once we start that new Jupiter cycle and end the Saturn cycle, it'll be a lot more clear what facets of this old world. Think about everything you experience that has been influenced by neo-colonialism and the modern upgrade of infrastructure through the industrial revolution and the technological revolution. All of that is being thrown in the dumpster. And we're getting ready to create something new as a collective. But that's only if we pass this collective test, get over our differences, and actually band together. Something that with all this division in the world is just not going to happen. So prepare for the mass extinction event. Other than that, what's more important is that you prepare for the greater awakening of your own psyche coming into this new moon, that this specific cycle will tangibly produce real results to prepare you for what to release in your relationships as we step into a new cycle of unconventional, supernatural, extra dimensional, pertaining to outside of this realm transformation that will kick up the apotheosis process to you connecting with celestial aspects of yourself, which are multidimensional in nature, and superpowers, supernatural abilities, blah, 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 blah. I'm gonna just keep saying superpowers till I'm blue in the face, but thankfully I'm black, so I can't blush or be blue in the face. Y'all, I hope you enjoyed this report, and really go within and ask yourself if where you're at is really what you're capable of, because you're going to very quickly see the way forward into a much, much pure, higher vibrational form of yourself. And that doesn't mean that you're more spiritual. That doesn't mean you're good or bad. That just means you're more aligned with who you are. And some of you are going to realize that who you really are goes against a lot of what society accepts. And you need to embrace that. Y'all stay blessed as always. Godspeed.